Okay, time for a little public service announcement regarding a few of the dangers on this here thing called the internet. So, I'm here to spew out a few gems of wisdom to keep some of us guys from being led into a few scamulous situations regarding social media. Whoa, scamulous. I'm not even sure that's a word. Scamulous. Well, if it ain't, it should be. And I'm making it one. Scamulous. Yeah. I like that. Now there's a bunch of things to be aware of when dealing with this stuff on social media. Now when we guys are tapping on our social media trying to see what that girl we had the hots for back in high school might look like now, there's a whole mess of things to be aware of. Well, of course, there are a few scamulous selling sites where some screwy dude is out there trying to sell you a $2,000 Martin guitar for the low price of $98. But I'm here to talk about something else, and that's who to accept and all of these friend requests. Yes, we guys tend to get. Especially us guys who fall around more of the mature nature. Mature enough to remember when Roger Staubach was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, that mature. Now, as I see it, there are about 5 groups of folks who are going to friend you. Okay, there's your family. There's the people you knew in high school and college. There's your co-workers. And then there are those neighbors and church folks and just friends in general. I think some people still have those. Okay, it's that 5th group that you need to be aware of. Those who are trying to break into your little social media circle, but don't always have the friendliest of intentions. A bit of the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing. Or, as I'm about to tell you, a wolf in fox's clothing. Now, a few of us guys tend to get friend requests from these little darlings that we don't know from Adam. And they look a whole lot more like a foxy version of Eve. You know, they look a little like those little hotties that were on those posters we used to put up on our bedroom walls back in junior high. You know what I'm talking about. But of course, when we get these type of friend requests, our ego and our hormones just kinda get the best of us. And we all think that these little honeys just ran across our social media and they're just so infatuated with our photos and bios that they just got to get to know us. And our heart starts beating, boom, 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 and our brain starts getting all whopper-jawed, thinking, oh my gosh, I still got it. Now this is where you have to draw the line between fantasy and reality. For most of us, we don't still have it. And chances are, we never had it to begin with. And it's all fantasy. Now let me try to distinguish for you here the difference between fantasy and reality. Let's use the scenario of the cable guy. Okay? Now, In reality, there's the cable guy. He comes to your house to install the cable. And well, he's this chubby, stubby little feller named Ralph. And Ralph smells a bit like Frito pie, and he's wearing his pants somewhere halfway down his bohunkus. And he comes in and says, "Hey, I'm Ralph. I'm here to install the cable." Okay, you got that picture? And the lady who answers the door is some hefty old broad named Gertrude with curlers in her hair, wearing a wrinkled moo-moo, smelling like a carton of Marlboro Reds. Okay, now that's reality. Now in a fantasy, the guy's name is Raphael. And he comes to the door wearing tight leather pants with no shirt. And the lady of the house answers the door. Well, she's looking like a playmate and is decked out in this sweet little red lace teddy. Got that? And he says something along the lines of, "I'm Raphael. I've come to insert the cable." And she says something like, "Oh, Raphael, I do so need cable inserted." Okay, now that's fantasy. Got it? Reality, fantasy. So, when it comes to this accepting friends business, you really need to be able to keep the two separated, so you don't get all scamulated. Scamulated. Well, there's another new word I just invented. Scamulated. How cool is that? Now, the group Parliament might have had a song about fantasy is reality back in the 70s, but as my mama used to say, don't kid yourself, fella. So, let's take a little gander here on how to separate reality from fantasy. Oh, fantasy is real. What's going on? Oh, that was kind of weird. Can't see anything. Whoa, holy moly, I see the light now. Okay. So when some young, hot little filly wants to be your social media friend, well, there's a few flags to look out for. One of the first things to do is to go to her page and look at her list of friends. Now, if she has no friends listed, that's a flag. Hair out of my eyes. Oh my goodness. Now you might have this idea that this poor little super hot babe who looks a bit like a young Pamela Anderson doesn't have any friends and she's just so lonely. And after searching through the bowels of the social media internet, my goodness, she has decided that you are the one guy on this here big old planet that she wants to start her social media world with. Yes, she's gone through millions, and you're the one that she has picked. Okay. Now that's a little of mixing fantasy with reality. Okay, fine, foxy young ladies tend to have lots of friends. Tons of friends, in fact. Tons of friends crawling all over them like ants crawling on a Mars bar. And even if she doesn't, chances are she's not scanning all the fellows in the world and choosing to start out with you. Fantasy is not reality. There. Now, if this little honey does have a bunch of friends, but for some reason they're all a bunch of creepy looking old geezers like you, that's a flag. In my personal experiences when dealing with young women, young women tend to have friends that are, on the younger side. Unless their friends have the title of grandpa or uncle next to them. Or great grandpa or great uncle. So, a little reality check should tell you that unless she's one of those sweet young things that charges by the hour, her list of friends more than likely ain't gonna look like, this year's cover of AARP magazines. I don't know where I got those. Also, if you look at their list of friends, and every single one of them are, these fellers with names that any normal American-speaking dude can't pronounce, or their names just have all these weird letters in them that just ain't normal. Or they all look like they might make the FBI's list of flight risks. That might also be a flag. Just hear it out of my eyes. So, check their friend list out to keep the, reality in line with the fantasy. My goodness, there it goes again. Okay now, the next thing you need to do is to check out these girls' photos. Now, if her entire photo gallery is comprised of nothing but headshots of herself, or maybe a little lower, that's a flag. Now, if there are any close-up photos of other certain parts of her anatomy, covered or uncovered, okay. I probably don't need to tell you this, but I will anyway. That's a flag. Now, in any circumstances, that would be considered fantasy. Now that's just starting to get a bit annoying. Alright. The next thing you need to check out is her work center education. Now, if it's blank, that's a bit of a flag. But not as much as some of the stuff they may try to enter. Some of them are, let's just say, a little vague on what they put down as their occupation. One of the vaguest ones was this little woman who put down, "I work as student." Okay. Now, is that what we call on-the-job training? Now, back in the college days, I knew a few who might be called professional students, but I'm not sure that's a self-titled occupation these days. Yeah. Now, one of my all-time favorites I've run across as far as the job descriptions go is, "I work in store." Now, that certainly leaves the options open there. Another one said, "I am nurse." Now, nursing is a fine, respectable profession, but those I know in the nursing field are a bit more specific about where and how they do their nursing. Nurses are quite proud of their job, and they usually tell you, well, just where and what they do. Home health care, emergency room nurse, what doctor they work with, you know, that kind of stuff. I reckon this could also go along the lines of, I am doctor, me medicine woman, me OBGYN, I pull baby from lady parts. Yeah, it gets a little weird. So, you need to watch out for that kind of flag, because you don't know what you're dealing with. Another good one was this little gal who was trying to pass herself off as an English teacher. Oh boy, and if she was indeed an English teacher, well, God help her students. I be teacher of good English to students many. Yeah, that was more than just a little bit of a flag. And of course, there are those that like to play the role of some kind of investment brokers or bankers or any of that highbrow banker money kind of stuff. Yeah. And because they've got those perfect measurements, they think they can blind your common sense with a bit of fantasy lust. And they tell you that if you give them access to all your bank accounts, well, they're just going to make you rich. And you and her will be living the life of Hugh Hefner, all set up in the Playboy Mansion, toking on a pipe and wearing your jammies all day. Now, if you don't already know that's a flag, well, you're a bit beyond my help, okay? So keep an eye open on that education, job description stuff. Because seems to me that a lot of those jobs they come up with, well, that's their fantasy. Well, that just keeps a-happening. Now here's another big flag to watch out for, and that is if these little darlings want to start a little chat with you just a few minutes after you accepted their friendship. Now we'd like to think that all these little beauties are just sitting around just longing to talk to old geezers like us guys who are north of the half-century mark. But unless you're the likes of a Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, or a George Clooney, well, we're talking of fantasy, right? Now, if you think about it, most folks on your social media don't have any real interest in chatting with you. That is, unless they want to gripe about who you voted for in the last presidential election. Now, my relatives can barely tolerate me once a year at Christmas. And as for those folks I knew back in high school, well, they didn't want to talk to me back then. So I'm pretty sure they don't want to strike up a conversation now. Then again, there might be that certain little lady that you dated in high school and got lucky with at the night of the senior prom. And she might want to start up an immediate chat with you concerning 18 years of back child support. But for the most part, if these little hotties want to start up an immediate conversation with you, well, that's a flag. And when they do, the first thing they usually ask me is my age and if I'm married and what I do for a living. Now, I just usually tell them that I have some kind of boring government job, which is kind of broad in itself. But a government job could stir up a few ideas, meaning I could be working for the FBI, the IRS, immigration, stuff like that. Or it could just mean I'm cutting grass at the local community park. I usually just let them figure that one out. Now, I was talking to this one little lady from some far-off eastern land, and we were just talking about this and talking about that and other things. And out of the blue, she asked me if I'd like to take a gander at her cat. Well, she actually used another word that's kind of synonymous with the word cat, but it still falls into the realm of the feline affiliation here. Now, I believe that word started with a P and ended with the letter Y. And I think there might have been a couple of S's in there as well. Well, I thanked the lady for her courtesy, but I told her that I was more of a dog guy myself, and I always found cats to be on a bit of the smelly side. And in my experiences, they always tended to leave quite the mess behind. And when I got all into them, my eyes just started to water a little. Yeah, the conversation got a little awkward after I made those points. But anyway, if any of these little honeys want to strike up an immediate conversation with you, that's generally a flag. Yep, that's a little on the fantasy side. Okay, one more thing to be aware of here, and that's when the photo or the name just doesn't go along with the lady's personality. Now let's say you get a friend request from this pretty little blue-eyed blonde with the name Bobby Sue. But then she tells you that she's from the fine country of Botswana. Yeah, Botswana. Now, I've got no issues with the land of Botswana. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, full of beautiful people. But I'm guessing there's not a whole lot of blue-eyed blondes roaming the streets of Botswana named Bobby Sue. Probably not even enough to make a respectable social club. The BEBBSB, the blue-eyed blonde Bobby Sues of Botswana. Okay, now I've met a few young women who all claim to be born in places like Kansas, or South Dakota, Rhode Island, California. But for some reason, when they were youngins, their parents all up and moved their families to Uganda and Nigeria and Zimbabwe. All right now, was there some big immigration movement from the United States to Africa like 20 or so years ago I might have slept through or something? I guess I don't remember that happening. But Most of them apparently forgot how to construct a proper English sentence since they've been gone. So that's also a flag. More fantasy. So, there you go. Just a little helpful public service announcement to keep you a little safer on the old social media front here. And let's try to keep that reality part from the fantasy part. Okay? Now I've got to go check my driveway here. Some feller is supposed to be delivering me a BMW I bought with a couple of old books of grain stamps I had laying around. Figure out what hat to wear. I don't know. That'll work.